Hey guys, good evening and welcome to the IRONMAN 70.3 Waco course info, tips and tricks and Q&A. I want to get things kicked off by giving a shout out to race director Nancy Goodnight. Nancy has done more Ironman, more halves, more triathlons than all of us combined. And she has taken what was a really good thing here in Waco and made it all the more better, provided just that extra little bit that provides from someone who is a highly experienced athlete, produces a great race, great athlete experience. So I'm super excited for this one. I'm really looking forward to sharing some info with you here this evening, as well as looking forward to race day. I have had the pleasure of being at every Ironman event in Waco. It's one of my favorite events of the year every year. So you guys are really in for a treat. My name is John Mayfield. I am a full time triathlon coach. I am USA Triathlon Level 2 and Ironman U certified. And I've had the privilege of coaching hundreds of athletes from first timers to professionals and everyone in between. So, as mentioned, I'm a Texas native. I've been at every event that Ironman has hosted in Waco. I've also been racing in Waco for more than a decade, so quite familiar with the race city, the venue, all of that. So what I want to do here this evening is share some of my experience as a coach and an athlete to help increase your confidence and reduce your stress as you head into race day so that you can produce your best results possible and enjoy this amazing experience for all that it's worth. So we're going to be going over the course. I'm going to be giving you some tips, and then at the end, I will get to as many questions as I am able to. So let's get started. A couple things to consider first. It's going to be critically important that you remain hydrated throughout the race day. Now, I'm going to keep coming back to this over and over, unapologetically. Going to be talking about this a lot. And your hydration starts in the days leading into the race. So, my recommendation is to always have a water bottle nearby in those last couple days as race day approaches, and not just plain water. Hydration with electrolytes. If you just drink a ton of plain water, you're going to end up flushing out electrolytes. That's going to be counterproductive. Those electrolytes are critically important as well. So my go-to, just my personal preference, and it's something I'm going to come back to here in a few minutes, is I like vitamin water. So in the days leading into a race, I always have a six pack of vitamin water, and I will just kind of nurse those throughout the day as race day approaches. So staying up on my hydration as well as my electrolyte intake. Limit time on your feet. So yes, this means limit the amount of time there at the Magnolia Silos. If you're going to go check that out, maybe do it early in the week or maybe save it for your post race. But you've got a lot of work to do using your legs on race day. There's also quite a bit that you're going to need to do in the days leading into the race. So you have to go down, get checked in. You have to drop your bike off, all of that. So limit the amount of time on your feet. Save them for race day as best you can, and then be sure to continue and pair all of those recovery modalities that you've been doing throughout your training. Continue those in these final days as race day approaches, especially as you're spending this extra time on your feet. So the static and dynamic stretching, your massage, compression boots, foam rolling, whatever the case may be, whatever you've been doing, make sure to continue with that. Check out the course. This course definitely lends itself to going and seeing and experiencing prior to race day. What we don't want are any surprises on race day. So go put eyes on as much of the course as possible and have a plan for everything that you're going to encounter. The course generally is marked with brightly colored duct tape in the days leading into the race, so it's very easy to follow. Even things like aid stations are going to be marked with that brightly colored duct tape, so you'll know exactly where those are going to be. So I'm going to be using a whole bunch of terms here that are largely subjective. kind of based on my definition, my understanding, my interpretation of things like, what is flat, what is hilly, what is a sharp turn, things like that. Your definition may be different than mine. So go out there and see as much of the course as possible, so that you'll know exactly what you're in store for on race day. Won't be caught off guard by anything. Be sure to read the athlete guide. This is one of those things that Nancy has done a fantastic job of getting out early, updating with good information in there. Even if you are a seasoned Ironman triathlete, there are usually one or two things that are unique in these athlete guides that are going to prove to be critical on race day. So, again, we don't want to get caught off guard on race day. Reading the athlete guide and being familiar with everything that is around this race is going to help ensure that everything goes smoothly. Now I'm going to get into a couple myths here, and these may be a little controversial, and I may even raise some eyebrows or maybe even cause some dissension. But first point here, first tip: optimize your tire pressure. Oftentimes, in years past, we had kind of a thought in cycling that if some is good, more is better. So we aired up our tires to, especially when we use tubular tires, 140, 160, 180 psi, thinking that the more air they had in them, the less contact with the road, less rolling resistance, faster tire. Especially as the wheels and the tires have gotten wider in recent years, the amount of pressure required to optimize your pressure has dropped. So most athletes will probably optimize their tire pressure somewhere in the neighborhood of around 80 to 90 psi. There's a great resource that I would advise checking out. It is from Silca, Silca. They make tires and tubes and bike accessories, that sort of thing. They have a calculator that you can go in, plug in all your information, and it'll tell you exactly what tire pressure that you need to be riding for your wheel width, tire width, weight, all those kinds of things. So check that out. Make sure that you are not over or under inflating your tires. Now, this is the one that perhaps may be the most controversial. Don't deflate your tires overnight. There's again a long-standing myth that when you drop your bike off the day before the race, you need to deflate your tires because the temperature change overnight is going to cause that air to contract, and then it's going to expand, and you're going to end up with a flat on race day. Fact of the matter is that is purely a myth, and just not necessary to do. Inevitably, you will hear some tires popping conceivably on race morning. You will see some flats out there, but it's not because of temperature change causing the air to contract and then expand. There's very little air in these 700 tires. The amount of temperature change necessary to cause a tire to pop is much greater than what we're going to experience, even if there's a cool front and there's a relatively drastic change in temperature. We've got bigger issues other than our tires if there's that much of a temperature swing. But if your tire were to pop overnight or in the morning, it's not because of that change in tire pressure. It's because there's a defect in the tube, there's a pinch, something like that. So you're going to actually want that tire to blow overnight, where you can have neutral support help you out in the morning, as opposed to that tire popping out on the race course. So there's no need to deflate your tires. In fact, if it is going to pop, you want it to pop overnight as opposed to out there on the race course. And just think about all the times your bike was in the garage, it was in a hot car, riding out on really hot roads, and the tires didn't pop because of that. So don't deflate your tires overnight. And the other is I would say less significant, but there's really no need to cover your saddle. Inevitably, you'll see a whole bunch of bikes in the transition area with a bag over the saddle and over the bars. Keep in mind that you're going to be coming out of that river. You're going to be soaking wet, and first thing you're going to do is plop down on that saddle, and it's going to get soaking wet. Same thing with the bars. They're designed to get wet. Electronic shifting, all that's fine. Dew or even rain overnight is not going to affect that. So those are just fewer things to do, fewer things to mess with. We're going to be talking about that here in just a minute. The fewer things you can do on race day, and as race day approaches, the better. So a couple things there, just to simplify your life as race day approaches. All right, let's get on to the race, starting with the swim in the Brazos River. So, for the swim start, water temperature will be announced prior to the race. Typically, what we will see at check in is they will be posting that day's water temperature. So, you'll know exactly how it's trending and what things are looking like. Um, the official water temperature will be taken in the very early morning on race day. They will be announcing that in the transition area, so you'll know exactly what the water temperature is, and then what the implications of that are. So, over the last several years, the water temperature has been below the wetsuit legal threshold. Wetsuit legal, so to speak, is up to and including 76.1 degrees. So, last year, official water temperature was 74.8. Year before that, 72. Back in 2019, 67.3. So there's kind of been a warming trend. And I will say, whether that's any coincidence or what, Texas has had a very hot summer, not a whole lot of rain. And from everything I have seen lately, the river water temperature is well above that 76.1 degree cutoff. Now, obviously, things could change in the next couple days, but if I had, gun to my head, I've got to make a prediction here. I would guess that the water temperature on race day is going to be above 76.1 degrees. So begin to take that into consideration. And just know that even though the race has been wetsuit legal for the prior three events, there's, I would say, a decent chance that this year may be above that 76.1 degree threshold. There is a 1 mile walk from transition down there to the race start. So this is a point to point swim. So you'll start off, basically transition obviously is there close to the swim exit. So the first thing you have to do in the morning is walk from transition down there to the swim start. Take that into consideration. The race starts at 7:37. So that's going to have to be maybe a question for Nancy. Not exactly sure why we have that very specific number. In fact, I double checked the schedule a couple times. So not used to seeing a number like this, unless there's sometimes different categories ahead. So there may be sometimes there are pro categories that start a little earlier, or physically challenged will go off first. So not exactly sure why 7:37, but that's where we are at. It is a self-seated rolling start. So what that means is once you make that 1 mile hike down there to the start, you will get queued up according to your expected swim time. There will be signs that mark every 5 minutes. So the first group is, I believe it's 25 minutes or faster. We'll all line up there. And then from there, there will be signs spaced out with 5 minute increments. So 25 to 30, 30 to 35, 35 to 40, all the way to 1 hour plus. So you will line up according to your expected swim time. And then there will be a few athletes starting every few seconds into the river. As you can see here from this picture, they do set up a temporary staircase. So you'll descend down the stairs and get into the water that way. There is a similar staircase at the exit. So you'll enter via a staircase and exit via a staircase. All right, couple tips for the swim start. Create a wetsuit plan. So, what are you going to do if the water temperature is X? What are you going to do if the water temperature is Y? Um, Something else we're going to talk about over and over, in addition to hydration, is maintaining a cool core temperature. This is really going to manifest on the run, but it starts even on the swim. So again, I've mentioned that we've had a very hot summer here in Texas. It's looking like race day is going to be warm. So take this into consideration. It is not just about the swim. So if the water temperature is 76.2 or above, it will be most likely wetsuit optional. If you decide to wear that wetsuit, you will start after all those that do not, and you will not be eligible for age group awards or world championship slots. You'll still be an official finisher. You'll get your time, your points, all of that, just not eligible for awards or world championship slots. But I would caution you in that wearing that wetsuit is going to cause your body to begin to heat up and heat up sooner than it would if you were to go without that. So I would say even if it is at or below 76.1, maybe consider not wearing a wetsuit until you reach a point where you kind of begin to need to, simply because the water is at that point is still relatively warm, and we're looking at a warm to hot day for race day. So maybe if it's 74 degrees, you're not going to wear a wetsuit, but below 74 you will. I would definitely advise against a full sleeve suit. If you have that option, I just can't see a scenario where the river is going to be that cold that it would justify a full sleeve suit. That suit is going to be that much warmer, retain that much more body heat, which is going to in turn cause your core temperature to rise all the more. But what we don't want to do is make any decisions on race day that we don't have to. So that's why I say make a plan now. And then when the official temperature is announced on race morning, it's just a simple execution of that decision. Get cued early. There are going to be a lot of things that I get repetitive on here this evening, and one of these is doing everything early. For me, I'm not necessarily that default early person, but when it comes time to racing, I do as much early as I can. I travel early, get down to the race site as early as I can. I check in, I drop my bike off, I get down to the race site early. The more time you have, the better off you're going to be. It's just kind of like an insurance policy to ensure that you're able to handle everything that is thrown at you on race day. So one of the things that this includes is, getting down there to the race site, getting parked, getting your transition area set up, and then having that mile walk from the transition down to the swim start. So I would recommend taking care of that early. There are corrals that are going to be set up down there at the swim start. So if you are late getting into that corral, it's going to be very difficult. You're going to have to kind of force your way around a whole lot of people. You may or may not get to the place where you would like to get to or you need to get to. And if you do, it's going to be kind of a inconvenience both to you and those that you're having to work your way through. So get down there early, get queued up early on. Take nutrition and hydration with you. So the fact that you've got this mile walk from transition down to the swim start, you're not going to be in a rush, and you really shouldn't be. So it's probably going to take you about 20 minutes or so to go from transition down there to the swim start. If you follow my advice and you get down there early, you've got some time to kill. So I would recommend taking hydration nutrition with you so that you're not going that long period of time without taking in hydration and calories. It's not a lot, but basically what we want to do is just kind of continue to take in those small amounts so that when you descend those stairs and you hit the water, you're topped off on your hydration, you're topped off on your nutrition, and all set to go. One thing you can do as you are in that mile walk from the transition down to the swim start, you're going to see all the buoys. One thing that helps me is knowing exactly how many buoys there are. And this helps me. I count them off and I know how far I've gone. I know how far I have left to go. So from recollection, I want to say that there were 8 buoys to the halfway mark, and then 8 or 9 buoys to the swim exit. So that's basically how I executed this race. Is just swam and counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now I'm halfway, and then kind of started counting down halfway out. So just pay mind to those number of buoys. That helps me just remind myself that I'm making progress and things are going well. So it's kind of little micro wins. Instead of thinking about that whole 1.2 mile swim, I'm just swimming to buoy number 1, number 2, number 3, so on and so forth. This whole day is all about eating an elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So that's how we want to approach the swim. Uh, Once you enter the water, settle in, get in some sink downs if you need to. Again, don't really anticipate the water being cold. That's one of the things that can oftentimes trigger panic attacks, but sometimes just the excitement of the day. And everything going on. So maybe just take a minute there before you really get away to just kind of settle in, do some sink downs, get your face wet, get comfortable, and then take off onto the swim. So the swim course, as mentioned, is point to point. It is fully protected, so we don't have to worry about waves or swells. Even it's narrow enough that we generally don't even have much chop on it. If the wind is really coming in a direction that is straight down the path of the river, there could be some surface chop on it. But this river does sit down in a recessed ravine, so there's even some protection from the wind there. So generally, what we see here is pretty flat, pretty calm water. Generally, there's not much of a current. As mentioned, I've been racing in the Brazos River for more than a decade. There have been a few years where there has been some current, but for the most part, the current is largely negligible. Over the last couple of years, when they also did the full Ironman distance race. It started in the same location and actually had about a half-mile swim upstream, and there wasn't a huge noticeable difference in the paces of swimming upstream versus downstream. So that obviously can change based on weather, rain, all of that. The first year the swim was canceled due to high amounts of rain, and the river was basically flooded. Obviously, then it was flowing quite nicely. It would have been a very, very fast but dangerous swim. But just normal default, this river is not a particularly fast flowing river. So it's not like Oregon or Augusta or Chattanooga, where those swims are really known for current assist. This is going to be a pretty accurate to your normal open water swim. It is in a southeastern direction, so it's the sunrise is going to be ahead over your left shoulder as you are headed down there, and it is largely a mud bottom river, so pretty low water clarity. The water is clean; it's just a little murky, so shouldn't have any issues sighting the buoys or any landmarks, but not a whole lot of clarity underwater, not a ton to see while your head is underwater. So, a couple tips for the swim course. Consider that sunrise when choosing your goggles. It will be at that 7:37 swim start. A little bit later in the year, that sun will likely still be quite low. So you may want to have some mirrored or darker goggles just to help to see those buoys. Again, these buoys are set approximately every 100 yards. They're quite large, so they're pretty easy to see, and they're great sighting opportunities. So, but take that into consideration. As mentioned, break the course into segments. So for me, it's knowing how many buoys there are on the first half and then how many on the second half, and then just celebrating a little win every time I reach one of those buoys. The buoys are going to be yellow on the first half of the course. They're going to switch to orange on the second half. So even that will let you know when you've reached that halfway mark. And then the Waco Drive Bridge is approximately a half mile from the exit. So there are a whole bunch of bridges here all together that are more so on that southeastern side. So basically, that first bridge that you get to, that is the Waco Drive Bridge, and that is about a half mile from the finish. So you'll know that'll give you kind of an idea of how far that you've made it, how far you've got left to go. Side often, even in this narrow body of water where it's hard to get lost, you can still swim extra yards by not swimming straight. The quickest way to swim Extra long is to swim extra far. And so the best way to get out of that water as quickly as possible is to swim as few yards as possible. The shortest distance between two lines is a straight point. The best way to swim in a straight line is to sight often and ensure that you are staying on target. I would recommend sighting very often as you are starting the swim, and then as you are finding yourself right on line every time, you can begin to space out the sighting a little bit. And then if you find that you're having to make more larger corrections, maybe now it's time to kind of back that up and start sighting more often again. And then this is kind of a tip that works for all swim exits, regardless of what they are, is swim until your hand touches. So what you'll see are some folks that begin to go vertical as they approach the swim exit. It's going to be pretty deep, so it's not going to be real efficient going through there. So just swim all the way until you hit that stair. There'll be volunteers there that'll help you get vertical and then get out of those stairs and then head into the transition area. So, anyone that raced last year or was on site is aware that if it were to rain either in the days leading into the race or once the race has started, as was the case last year, transition will get muddy. It is in a grass field, and actually, I would say it's probably more dirt than grass, especially after several hundred triathletes have walked on it in the days leading into the race. So just a consideration there. Hopefully, last year took care of all the rain, and this year will be a beautiful Bluebird Chamber of Commerce kind of day. But just be aware of that. Know your location in transition. So there's a whole bunch of racks, a whole lot of bikes that look exactly alike, or at least very similar. So what we don't want to do is waste a bunch of time trying to find your bike. So the day before, when you drop your bike off, pay attention to any landmarks. Pay attention to which row you're on. Maybe there's a garbage can set up or a light pole, something like that, that can serve as a reminder or a marker as to where your bike is. From there, be efficient and pack minimally. What we don't want to do is have a whole bunch of stuff in our transition area. One, that's just all the more things to remember to do and mess with in transition. It's going to slow your transition time, but then it's also going to take up space at the rack. These racks are efficiently, tightly packed. There's not a ton of room, so kind of be a good neighbor and pack minimally. And then from there, practice in advance. We spend hours and hours and hours every week swimming, cycling, running, but how much time do we spend on our transition? Transitions are critically important in that, especially if you forget something, the few seconds it would have taken to do something in transition can have major impacts later on. So know exactly what it is that you want to do in transition, have that stuff, and then practice whatever your procedure, your protocol, getting your helmet on, glasses, shoes, whatever the case may be, whatever your transition is, know exactly what that is, and be efficient in that. Practice it in advance. And then consider a go bottle. I love this tip. I can't take credit for it. This was shared with me from my friends at Precision Fuel and Hydration. So a go bottle is this is where my vitamin water comes full circle. So as mentioned in the days leading into the race, I drink vitamin water, and the reason I like the bottle is it has a large mouth on it, so I can drink from it quite quickly, as opposed to like a standard water bottle with a much smaller mouth on it. So this go bottle in T1 will have about 6 to 8 ounces of water in it, and then I will have a serving of my nutrition, a serving of my electrolytes. So as I am going through my pre-practiced efficient transition protocol, I will just chug down those 6 to 8 ounces of water, nutrition, and electrolytes. So over the course of the last say 30 to 60 minutes during the swim, I was burning calories, losing hydration, but I wasn't taking in anything. So it's been said, and I'm going to continue to say, it is critical that we stay up on those three things: our nutrition, our hydration, and our electrolytes. So that Go bottle is just a little bit of a primer to kind of make up for all the calories burned, the hydration lost there during the swim, and get things kicked off as we head out onto the bike course. So, new bike course for this year. It still is a one loop course. It promises improved road quality, reduced turns, which both of those are good. Honestly, I was a fan of the old course. I did enjoy it, but certainly agree that there was some room for improvement, and I'm looking forward to this, to have the better roads and the fewer turns. So, not a whole lot to this course. It's pretty straightforward. That said, as recommended, go out and put eyes on it, see it, know what you're in store for on race day. Because some of these things I'm going to say are subjective and relative. So yeah, that includes calling the first 13 miles flat. Not a whole lot to it. You can see down there at the bottom of the screen the elevation chart for this course. You can see that first segment pretty flat. There's obviously a couple up and downs, but these are quite I would call them insignificant. These are not hills, these are not climbs, these are little bumps in the road that you may or may not even need to shift up one gear. Miles 13 through 28, which is, call it the kind of the latter half of the course, or at least the outward segment of the out and back. That is where you will experience, I would say, more rolling. These again are not hills, they are not climbs, but again, those are my definitions based on my understanding, my experience, all of that. You may see some of these and think you've got to go climb Everest. So again, all the more reason to go see the course and know exactly what you're in store for on race day. So there's nothing sustained over a 2% grade for any length of time. There may be some very short segments in here that exceed 2%, but 2% is still, again, a pretty mild grade. There aren't any climbs that are of significant length. So again, I think it's just going to be a fun course, where it's not just flat and boring. There's going to be a couple opportunities, especially on the second half of this segment. It'll be, I would say, more like the second quarter, because again, it's out and back, so it's not just the back segment, but the second half of the outbound segment of the course, and then coming back to so they call it the second and third quarters, if you will, to be more exact. I think they're just going to be fun, and so some great opportunity here. I think it's going to be a really good course that you're going to enjoy. It is exposed to the sun and the wind, so we won't really know until race day how much of that is a factor, but just know that those are potentials. So, a couple tips for the bike course: settle into the loop and then build throughout. So, utilize those, not necessarily the first full 13 miles, but the first few miles. They're nice and flat. This is just a good opportunity to get established in your hydration and nutrition, get settled in and get comfortable. Let your heart rate settle if it's elevated from the swim transition, all of that. And again, just find your pace, your power, your race protocol, settle in, and then build throughout. So you'll kind of build. You'll go do those hilly sections at the bottom of the loop. You'll ride back up through those, and then great thing about starting the course with a section of flat miles is you're going to end the course with a section of flat miles as well. So especially because this is an out and back course, we're going to experience what I refer to as the rule of reciprocity. So what goes up comes back down. So every hill that you climb, so to speak, on the way out is going to become a downhill as you head back to transition, and vice versa. Every hill you coast down, you're going to have to pedal back up. And then I would say perhaps more likely is dealing with the wind. So if there is a headwind on the way out, you're going to enjoy a tailwind on the way back, and vice versa. So just kind of think about those things, factor those in as well. So stay ahead of hydration and nutrition. So even if you're feeling really good, it is absolutely critical that you maintain the protocol that has been proven and tested throughout your training. These don't necessarily manifest while you're on the bike, especially in a half. You've not been exercising long enough, racing long enough to really burn through everything. As long as you've been taking in some, you're probably going to be fine for the entire bike course. Where this really is going to manifest, and you're going to have proof as to how well you executed your hydration, nutrition, and electrolytes, is out there on the run course. So everything we do is setting up the run. That goes back even to the swim, where I mentioned you may or may not want to wear a wetsuit, even if it's wetsuit legal. So we are making decisions on the swim. We're making decisions on the bike so that we can go out there and run successfully. So absolutely critical to stay ahead of hydration and nutrition, stay up on that. And then right along with that is your cooling protocol. Again, chances are you're not going to feel all that hot on the bike, even if it is a warm day. You're going to be moving somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 miles an hour. You're going to be having that natural cooling as you move. It's also going to be a cooler part of the day. So once again, where you're going to see how well you managed your core temperature is not necessarily on the swim, not on the bike. It's going to be on the run. So this is kind of what I refer to as the trinity of race execution: is hydration, nutrition, and your cooling protocols. If you nail all of those, you're going to have a fantastic race. If you get behind on any one of those, and things are going to get complicated, you get behind on more than one, and chances are it's not going to be a great day. So it's absolutely critical to stay up on your hydration, your nutrition, your electrolytes, and manage your core temperature. Towards the end of the bike, begin to think about and prepare for T2 and the run. So all that said, the one little exception I make here is the last 20 minutes of the bike. I don't take in anything into my stomach. So what I want is for my stomach to be able to empty out and be prepared for the run. So I don't want any bloating. I don't want a bunch of liquid sloshing around in my stomach. So over the last 20 minutes of the bike, I stopped taking in anything to again allow my stomach to empty. Now that means at say 25 to 30 minutes out, that is kind of my check to say, where am I? Do I need to just continue into my protocol for the next 5 to 10 minutes, or do I have some catching up to do? Do I maybe take a gel to get a boost of calories, or maybe it's taking in some extra water, extra sports drink, whatever the case may be, so that I can shut that down at 20 minutes and then allow my stomach to empty as I finish the bike. If I get thirsty in that time period, I may take a little sip of water, something like that, but also I may just get a rinse out. So I always recommend taking cold fluids from the aid stations. So if you're using the on-course nutrition, even if you have, say, half a bottle of Gatorade left, go ahead and ditch that in the discard zone where you can throw trash, and take that cold bottle. That cold bottle is going to be more palatable, so you're more likely to stay drinking it. And that cold fluid is going to help to control your core temperature internally. Even like even if you don't utilize the on-course nutrition, I always recommend taking a cold water bottle. So what I do when I ride through an aid station, first thing I do is take a big chug of that cold water, again, looking to control my core temperature internally. And then I will spray my face with that cold water, take another chug, and then spray my neck, my kit, get my body as wet as possible with that cold water, and then I'll ditch that bottle there in that discard zone. So again, looking to take advantage of that opportunity to cool my body both internally and externally. All right, so now on to T2. T2 looks exactly like T1. Be efficient, pack minimally, practice in advance, and consider a go bottle. So the one thing I will do differently in T2 than T1 is instead of 6 to 8 ounces of water in that go bottle, I'll do more like 10 to 12 ounces of water and still do a serving of nutrition, a serving of my electrolytes. Now, I haven't taken anything in over the past 20 minutes, so my stomach is going to be empty and receptive to this. But sometimes it's just not. If my stomach is a little off, if I don't feel like chugging down 10 to 12 ounces in transition, I may just take that with me. Now it truly becomes a go bottle, and I will nurse that over maybe it's the first half mile, maybe mile, 2 miles, whatever the case may be, getting in that go bottle content as quickly as I safely can, and then switching over to my normal on course nutrition protocol. So just consider that go bottle. I think it's a fantastic idea. Always gotten great feedback from those. All right, on to the run course. So this picture here is the Cameron Park climb. So this is something we'll come back to. This is kind of what this run course is known for. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but this is what I'm referring to when we talk about Cameron Park. So on to the run. It is a one loop course. It is a mix of road and paved path. This is just it's a great course. It's a lot of fun, really good shape. It's interesting. It's diverse. You go through several different what I would refer to as neighborhoods, different areas, looking at different things. It's really cool. So super excited for it. It's a good course, fair course, fast course. There's a mix of sun and shade. So if you recall from that picture we just looked at, the section in Cameron Park is very heavily wooded. A lot of shade there. Even the first stretch out of transition as you're headed out there towards Cameron Park is shaded. A lot of this is through parks, and then the kind of the second half of the course gets a little less shaded. This is where you're going on to the Baylor campus around McLean Stadium and around different parts of Baylor University. More exposure to the sun out there. Keep in mind that's also going to be later in the day. Sun is going to be higher, sun's going to be hotter, all of that. So a mix of sun and shade. The course is flat, with the exception of that climb up Cameron Park. So again, pretty much it's along the river. Then you'll do the section in Cameron Park, which there is a 5% grade for about half a mile. So that was that picture that we were looking at just a second ago. I will say it kind of winds around. This is that section, it's really where, if you're looking at the picture there, right where the mile 2 marker is. So mile 1 is flat, mile and a half is flat. And then you'll head up, when you make that left turn, that is where you'll begin to go up that 5% grade. And again, it lasts for about half a mile. You can see there it curves to the right, so you can't see the top as you're going up. So just know that you're going to work your way around that curve, and there's going to be some more. So the top is not right around the curve. Go around the curve, there's a little bit more. It flattens out. You kind of do a loop up there through a really neat park area, and then head back down. So again, same reciprocity. What goes up comes back down. But I will say this 5% grade, that is steep enough where just be aware of it. Be comfortable running downhill. It's more like falling downhill. So it can be tough on your quads, on your knees. Just be sure to keep a high turnover. And once you navigate that section of the course, again, you're somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5 miles in. So it's early in the course. After that, relatively flat. There are a couple times where you go from the river level up to the street level, but nothing overly significant up there. All right, couple tips for the run course. Like everything else, break the course into sections. So I mentioned what I refer to as neighborhoods. That's just kind of how my brain works. I like to again attack everything in these segments. So as I'm coming out of transition, I know I've got about 2 miles to the top of the hill there at Cameron Park. So that's going to be that first segment that I will attack. From there, you come back just a little ways, not all the way back to transition, but you then cross over the river and head back up kind of to the northwest. There's a section there through a great looking path, and then a park area, quite lovely down there. And then you'll come back, cross back over the road for a segment, and then over back over to the other side. That gets a little kind of a loop-de-loop there, but once you've completed that, kind of one section of the course is done. So now once you're on the other side of the river, you're running along the street, and then you dip back onto the path, and then that's where you're going under the finish line, and then out there towards Baylor University. So there's a very nice path right along the river, and that's where a lot of this run course is. It's a nice wide path, plenty of room for everyone. And again, pretty flat. Again, just a couple bumps here and there. Certainly nothing outside of that Cameron Park section really to even consider. So then once you head in to the Baylor area, you run right around the football stadium, cross over the river back and forth one more time, and then you'll head back to the finish line along that very famous, iconic Waco suspension bridge. Really neat finish. They have done a bunch of work on the bridge in the last year or so. It's a great surface to finish on. It's lined with crowd, a lot of energy, great finish line. So again, just break the course into sections, however you see fit, however you need to. Like the bike course, recommend easing in and then building throughout. So I think a kind of a great test is to take it easy through that first segment, get up and down the hill in Cameron Park, evaluate how you're feeling, and then go from there. You've got approximately, call it 11 miles or so from there to run and build throughout. For the last time, I'm going to remind you to stay hydrated and to stay cool. Again, a lot of this is going to be dependent on the weather. I just looked at the 10-day forecast, and it's looking like we are going to see a afternoon temperature in the mid 80s. So I will say that especially if the sun is out, especially if the humidity creeps up, mid 80s is going to be quite warm. It is definitely warm enough that if you do not nail your nutrition, your hydration, and your cooling protocols, it is going to be all the more difficult for you to perform up to what you've deserved, what you've trained for, what you worked for, what you deserve. So stay up on that hydration and stay up on those cooling protocols. Inevitably, what we see in every one of these long course races are athletes who are out there either running significantly slower than they planned or walking, especially as the day moves on. And it's not that those athletes didn't train sufficiently. It's not that they don't have the endurance or the stamina to continue this. The vast majority of those athletes are they're either overheated or they're dehydrated, and their body is not allowing them to perform to their standards. So the penalty for overhydrating is much more palatable than the penalty for underhydrating. If you overhydrate, worst case, you have a stop or two at a porta potty. If you underhydrate, not only will your performance suffer, there can actually be medical issues and that sort of thing. Same thing with your cooling protocol. If you overdo it, you get a little chilly and you can always back off. But if you get too hot, really bad things happen. In addition to not realizing the potential that you could have had. So take something from every aid station. Not only did you pay a whole bunch to be in this race, it's get your money's worth, but it's very likely that you can benefit from something at every aid station. So my long course nutrition protocol on the run is I take a gel at that first aid station and I rinse it down with usually 2 cups of water poured over ice. So again, I'm taking in my calories and then I'm cooling that water because sometimes the water is just in cups and that water's not cold. They'll serve ice in a separate cup. So I'll just real quickly chill that water before I take it in and cool my body from the inside. And then kind of, again, depending on what the temperature is, how I'm feeling, I may just go ahead and stash ice everywhere else, down my shorts, down my jersey, under my cap, pour the cold water on my arms, over my head, cool my body from the outside. And then on the next aid station, it generally is all about that cooling protocol. So doing those same things, refreshing that ice that has inevitably melted, pouring the cold water over my face, all of those things. So then that continues on. So for me, it's a gel and ice water at the odd aid stations, and then cooling protocol is my focus. At the even aid station. So again, chances are there is something that you can benefit from at every aid station. So plan those out as you are approaching, and then execute on those. All right, and finally on to the finish line. As mentioned, this is a very unique finish line. It is full of energy. It is awesome. You'll actually run right underneath it. It's gosh, probably a mile eight or so. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, you'll cross underneath the suspension bridge as you're heading out towards Baylor University. I could be wrong on that mile marker, but you'll get a vibe for it. You'll hear the music. You'll see the fans up there cheering for you. They can see you running along that path, which is a ton of fun as well. You'll go out and do that Baylor loop, and then come back and again see the bridge from a distance off. You know exactly how far you have to go. A little bit of a short climb up there to back to street level, where you'll get to experience this really neat, enjoyable, unique finish line. So a couple tips here: clean up all the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into this day. Wipe those away before you cross that finish line and get your pick that you'll use for your Christmas cards and your Instagram profile. All of that. Plan your finish. The finish line is fun. It's unique. What are you going to do? How are you going to celebrate? The only thing that you can't do is bring a family member, loved one, baby, dog, anything like that with you across the finish line. That's an automatic disqualification. So it's all about you. Cross the finish line by yourself, and find some space. You've been out here for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours operating under your own power, your own ability, and you want that really great finisher pick. So if you're coming across that finish line and you're caught up in a group of people, maybe just hang back for a second, let them go, have their time, and then cross the finish line, enjoying your own space. And then for me, it's all the high fives. I enjoy this at every Ironman event. Once you enter into that finishing chute, once you step on that red carpet, in this case, once you step onto that suspension bridge, I think it really all becomes about that finish line experience. There's going to be a ton of people there, and for me, I really enjoy giving high fives to the kids, my support crew, those total strangers that should probably be in biohazard suits at this point, giving out high fives. But that's really what it's all about. And then take it all in. You've got a whole lot invested into this day, into this experience. Again, once you step onto that suspension bridge, be present, listen for your name, soak it all in, enjoy it, because that's what's going to serve as your reward. That's what's going to bring you back for more. All right, that is what I've got. So I've got a few minutes here. I've got a couple questions. Thank you to everyone who has submitted their questions in advance, as well as those who have been submitting throughout the webinar. If you have a question now, you can use that widget on the GoToWebinar widget there. There's a questions tab. Just submit your questions there. I'm down to about 7 minutes here. I will get to as many questions as I can. If I am not able to answer your question here in the next few minutes, I will respond to you via email in the next couple of days. That said, if you have any questions, if there's anything I can help you with as you head into race day, please feel free to reach out. My email address is there on the screen. It'll be there for the next several minutes. It's john@tribetriathlon.net. Please feel free to reach out, and I will help out in any way that I can. All right. So first question, should I wear shoes down to the swim start? Yeah, I would advise it here. Again, it's a mile. You'll be walking along either the path that I talked about that is all along the river there, nice and paved, but it's still a long way to walk barefoot. Or most folks are actually walking in the road that is closed. It becomes the bike course later on. So it is closed to traffic. But yeah, that's a long walk to walk barefoot. You wouldn't want to pick up anything, cut your foot, anything like that. So I would definitely recommend having some sort of footwear down there to the swim start. Now, at registration, they will be giving you a morning clothes bag. So what this will allow you to do is wear your shoes or anything else that you want to wear down to the swim start, and then take it off, and then pack it in that bag. Drop your bag down there at the swim start, and then those bags will be delivered back to you after the race. Those are dropped back in the transition area. So it's looking like it's going to be maybe mid 60s on race morning, so a little bit cool. So maybe you want to wear a jacket or a shirt or something. Same thing. You can throw all of that in that morning clothes bag, drop it off down there at the swim start, and then that will be returned back to you after the race. You can also drop it with your support crew if you've got that, but Ironman does provide those morning clothes bags for that, so that you can wear shoes, wear clothes down there, and not have to head down from transition. Next question. Any advice for racing in the rain? Yeah. So again, hopefully that was all taken care of last year. Hopefully that is not an issue. But if it is, or inevitably, if you race long enough, at some point you will be racing in the rain. It really the biggest thing. One would be transition. I got caught off guard last year, so I didn't know it was going to rain. So even in my transition setup, my shoes were there and just they were soaking wet and muddy by the time I got there. So maybe just have like a plastic bag or something to put your socks, shoes in, just to keep them dry. That's really more keeping an eye on the forecast and planning accordingly. But as far as actual race execution goes, maybe drop a couple psi out of your tires. 5 to 10 psi is kind of the rule of thumb for riding on wet roads, just to help increase the traction there, and obviously just be a little bit more conservative, especially on the curves, downhills, things like that. Take that into consideration. Know that your brakes are going to be wet, so wet brakes don't work quite as well as dry brakes. So make sure that you are taking that into consideration, and then keep an eye out for anything that will be slick when wet. So things like the painted stripes on the road, manhole covers, anything like that, and then make sure that you're pointing those things out to other cyclists as well. We want to take care of each other, make sure that everyone arrives back safely. Not a whole lot for the run. Enjoy it. Be like a little kid playing in the rain, and just have fun out there if it's raining on the run course. Last question I've got time for. What if I get a flat? Unfortunately, last year I did get a flat out there on the course, new course. So hopefully just the improved road conditions will make that a bit of a moot point. But best thing is to be self-sufficient in changing your own flat. So carry a flat kit with you, have your tubes, your CO2, your lever, everything you need to change your tube, and know how to do it. And it's one of those things, like, know how to do it in a reasonable amount of time. You ought to be able to change a tire and give or take, say, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So not a really long time on the side of the road. Now, there is going to be neutral support out there. There will be mechanics that will stop and help you change if you are on the side of the road with a flat. But keep in mind, this is a one loop course. It is out and back, so there's a little bit of duplication, but there's still a whole lot of mileage to cover. There's a bunch of cyclists out there. So there's no guarantee that, one, they'll get to you, or two, they'll get to you in a timely manner. So it's real important to be very self-sufficient in this. Yes, other athletes can assist. They're, of course, under no obligation to do so. As mentioned, I flatted last year. It was probably around mile 50, so I was pretty close to the end of the ride, and I was able to change the tire myself. And in the time I was on the side of the road changing that tire, I never saw neutral support. So who knows how long it would have taken them to get to me had I not been self-sufficient in changing my own tire. So check out some YouTube videos. Go to your local bike shop. It's not particularly difficult. just need to know how to do it. Know how your CO2 works. That's something else that I've seen. Sometimes those CO2 dispensers are a little different, so make sure you understand and know how yours works, so that when you tear through and get everything done super quick, you don't get stalled on getting that tire back inflated. All right, guys, we are up against time. Once again, I hope this has been beneficial for you. I hope you've learned something. I hope that one of these tips has been beneficial to you. I hope that your stress is reduced and your confidence is increased. And I hope that you go and take in Ironman 70.3 Waco for all that it is worth. It is a really neat experience. You guys are in for a really neat opportunity. I wish you all the best. Go have a great race. Good night.